So picture this. It's the early 20th century, and the world is basically cracking at the seams. You've got rapid new technology, mind-bending psychology, and a world war that's turning everything completely upside down. So how did artists respond? Well, they didn't just paint new pictures. Oh no. They ignited a revolution. Let's dive into how art decided to fight back against a world in crisis. And this is the fundamental question, isn't it? This is what artists were staring down. The old rules, painting things beautifully, making them look realistic, that didn't just feel outdated anymore. It felt like a total lie. To even begin to describe this radical new reality, they were going to need a radical new language. Okay, so let's set the stage here. The turn of the century wasn't just a change on the calendar, it was this period of immense psychological pressure. I mean, society was transforming so incredibly fast that traditional art, with its calm little landscapes and its noble portraits, it was just getting left in the dust. It couldn't keep up. I mean, just think about these things all happening at once. You've got cities just exploding in size, which creates this brand new sense of anxiety and alienation. At the exact same time, you've got Sigmund Freud revealing this hidden, often terrifying world inside our own minds, the unconscious. And then, bam, World War I unleashes mechanized slaughter on a scale humanity had never, ever imagined. This was the perfect storm, a crisis that absolutely demanded a completely new kind of art. So in response to that storm, a new spirit of rebellion emerged. It's a spirit we call the Avant-Garde. But here's the thing you gotta understand. This wasn't just one style or one movement, it was an attitude. It was a mission statement.
Yeah, the term literally comes from the military. It's the advanced guard, the soldiers that scout ahead into unknown, dangerous territory. And that is exactly how these artists saw themselves. Their mission wasn't to create pretty pictures to hang in your living room. No way. It was to storm the gates of culture, break all the rules, and drag everyone else into the future, whether they liked it or not.
So their goals were just huge. They wanted to challenge every single artistic tradition. They wanted to provoke the audience, to make you think, to shock you, maybe even to make you a little angry. They were trying to completely redefine what art itself could even be. And this is so important. They wanted to make art a catalyst for real social change. So the key takeaway here, art wasn't just something to look at anymore. It was becoming something that does something. So how did this whole avant-garde spirit actually show up in the artwork? Well, let's look at our first major response, Expressionism. Instead of fighting the chaotic world head-on, these artists decided to turn their focus inward, to the chaos of the human mind. This movement popped up in Germany around 1905, and it was all about raw, unfiltered emotion. For these artists, the goal wasn't painting the world as it looked, but as it felt from the inside. They would deliberately distort figures and use these jarring, totally unnatural colors to make the psychological tension of modern life something you could actually see. And this right here really sums up their entire philosophy. For an expressionist, a twisted figure or a screaming red sky, that wasn't a mistake in their technique. That was a tool. It was the only visual language they had to show the raw truth of fear, of anxiety, of a spiritual collapse. And of course, there's no better example than this, Edvard Munch's masterpiece. It just captured that deep psychological suffering perfectly. This isn't a realistic portrait of a person, it's a portrait of anxiety itself. It's that inner scream, made visible for the whole world to see. Okay, so let's pivot to our second case study, which took the complete opposite approach. If Expressionism was the inward scream, then Dadaism was the outward mocking laugh. It was a rebellion fueled by pure absurdity and protest. So Dada was born in 1916 in neutral Zurich. It was a safe haven for all these artists fleeing the war. And they looked at the absolute carnage of World War I and basically concluded that the so-called rational civilization that produced it was completely, utterly insane. So, you know what? They decided to fight insanity with insanity. And this question right here, this is the master key to unlocking Dada. Think about it. If a logical society could produce the completely illogical slaughter of millions of people in trenches, why on earth should art have to stick to logic and order? For the Dadaists, the only sane response to an insane world was insane art. So they basically took a sledgehammer to the very idea of art. They threw out traditional beauty, they celebrated total absurdity, they let random chance dictate what they created, and they used shock as a weapon to jolt a sleeping public awake. Their mission was simple: burn down the old definition of art to clear the ground for something new. And this is Dada's mic drop moment. By taking an ordinary urinal, signing it with a fake name, and calling it Fountain, Marcel Duchamp wasn't just trying to offend people, though I'm sure he enjoyed that. He was playing a whole new game. He single-handedly proved that art wasn't about what you make anymore, it was about what you think. The idea itself became the art. So now we have these two powerful, totally different rebellions against the old world. One is screaming inward, the other is laughing outward. So what was the long-term fallout? How did they permanently alter the very DNA of art? And this table just breaks it all down perfectly. On one hand, you've got Expressionism, that inward turn, that raw psychological scream trying to show emotional truth. On the other hand, Dadaism, the outward protest, that defiant laugh in the face of a meaningless world. It really boils down to this: a scream of inner pain versus a laugh of outer protest. You know, the legacy of these movements is just impossible to overstate. They proved that art didn't have to be just a mirror reflecting the world. It could be a hammer to shape it, a scalpel to dissect it, or a key to unlock the human mind. I mean, nearly every major art movement that came next, surrealism, conceptual art, even pop art, they're all standing on the shoulders of these original rebels. Ultimately, the Avant-Garde, Expressionism, and Dada, they all taught us that art doesn't have to provide answers. Sometimes its real power is in asking powerful questions. Which, of course, leaves us with a final thought. In our own turbulent times, what is the most important question for art to be asking right now?